Good evening and welcome. I'm Rebecca, one of the directors here at HENB. We have several exciting guests and topics tonight, so I won't keep you waiting any longer. On behalf of HENB, I first want to thank our participants for joining this information webinar hosted in collaboration with the Chevening Alumni Association of Belize. We at Heritage Education Network Belize, a nonprofit, non-governmental organization, are passionate about knowledge sharing and education, as well as breaking any boundaries to accessing those things. This passion is clearly shared with our colleagues at Chevening. Chevening has awarded scholarships to over 50,000 individuals to study a variety of disciplines, including the heritage-related fields such as bioarchaeology, museum studies, archaeology, and public archaeology. We applaud Chevening for their support of Belizeans on their pursuit of education and are grateful for their collaboration to bring you, our viewers, perspectives from Chevening scholars themselves tonight. This evening, we will have Ms. Tracy Hutchinson as the host for the information webinar. Ms. Hutchinson has 20 years of demonstrated experience in policy formulation, implementation, and fostering of multi-stakeholder partnerships in Belize. Tracy is possessing a bachelor's in economics from Florida Southern College, USA, and a master's in international development, industrial strategy, and trade policy from the University of Manchester, UK. Since 2020, Tracy has held the post of strategic planner and team leader in the new United Nations Resident Coordinator Office, where she leads a technical team to provide strategic guidance to the United Nations Resident Coordinator and UN country team on effective, quality, and timely UN support for implementation of the 2030 Agenda through the UN Cooperation Framework. She initiates and coordinates external partnerships and joint resource mobilization efforts, and she supports overall management of the Resident Coordinator Office to ensure efficient and effective substantive coordination support to the team in Belize. She joined the UN office in Belize in 2011 as the UN Coordination Analyst in the former office of the United Nations Resident Coordinator in Belize. Prior to joining the United Nations, Tracy was the investment analyst at the Belize Social Security Board and held posts with the government of Belize as a trade economist and research analyst. Tracy also worked as an independent consultant in the areas of specialization and was adjunct lecturer at the University of Galen, Belize, for graduate and undergraduate economics courses. Tracy is currently the Vice President of the Chevening Alumni Association of Belize. We welcome you, Tracy. I now open the floor to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rebecca Juan, for that kind introduction and for the great collaboration of the Heritage Education Network Belize with the Belize Chevening Alumni Association. A pleasant good night to all our viewers and participants joining us tonight. It gives me great pleasure to act as moderator for this, our first information webinar, which we hope can be a regular offering for Belizean students and professionals interested in pursuing graduate studies in the United Kingdom. The objective of this webinar is to acquaint current and future applicants to the Chevening Scholarship Program with important information and all you need to know to start the Chevening journey. I am therefore really delighted to introduce our panelists tonight. First up, we have Sylvia Batty, who is passionate about archaeological research ever since she was a child, volunteering on archaeological research projects in Belize at the tender age of 12. This passion would lead Sylvia to earn a bachelor's degree in anthropology with a concentration in archaeology from Galen University in Belize. Since 2012, Sylvia has been employed in the Research and Education Department of the Institute of Archaeology at the National Institute for Culture and History. In 2017, Sylvia was the recipient of a Chevening Award and pursued a Master of Science in Public Archaeology at University College London. Currently holding the post of archaeologist in the same department at the Institute, she leads on underwater cultural heritage management and collections management. Her passion and leadership led Sylvia to co-found an NGO in Belize, Fahina Archaeology Outreach, in 2016, where she co authored and distributed over 700 free copies of a children's book, To the Mountain, the first trilingual English, Spanish, and Yucatec Mayan archaeologically inspired children's book in Belize. Sylvia organizes the Sokots Archaeology and Culture Fair to create opportunities for culture and knowledge exchange between archaeologists and the communities in which they work. In 2020, Sylvia also co founded the Heritage Education Network and is currently one of 4 women directors. A warm welcome, Sylvia. We're also joined on our panel by Josue Paz, a 2020-2021 Chevening Scholar. Having recently completed his Masters of Science in Marketing at the University of Kent in Canterbury, his honors thesis focused on social media influencer marketing and the interplay between successful strategies and consumer emotions. He completed his bachelor's degree at Galen University, where he was awarded the highest academic achievement of his graduating class. During and following his undergraduate studies, he worked as a freelance graphic designer and marketing officer. He has over 9 years of experience working in the marketing and business sector, with his most recent employment at Atlantic Bank Limited. Josue's main interests include branding, photography, and design. Welcome, Josue. Next, we have Shari Bowen. Shari holds a master's degree in tourism and international development from the University of Brighton and has been the senior licensing officer at the Belize Tourism Board for the past 3 years. Shari currently serves as the executive secretary on the board of directors at the Young Women's Christian Association and is an adjunct lecturer at the University of Belize. Shari enjoys traveling and touring Belize while gaining first-hand experience and research on how to implement developmental policies for sustainable and inclusive tourism. Welcome, Shari. And the final member on our panel is Deborah Rogers. Deborah is currently reading for an LLM in General Law at the University of Aberdeen in Scotland, receiving her Chevening Award earlier this year. Having completed a Bachelor of Law at the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill in 2012, and then her legal education certificate at Norman Manley Law School in 2014, she joined the judiciary of Belize as a magistrate, where she has been for the past 6 years, currently posted in Corozal. Deborah has always been passionate about the law, and pursuing this career path is her dream. Her duties have allowed her to practice various areas of law across the country, working closely with social workers, the police, and community rehabilitation officers, seeing firsthand how the law affects at-risk youth. It is her hope that in using this opportunity to further her studies, she is able to return with a stronger platform to effect positive change within the criminal justice system, focusing on youth who come in conflict with the law. Her objective is to create policies within the juvenile court system that contributes to reducing recidivism of repeat youth offenders and ultimately enhance public confidence in operations of the magistracy. Welcome, Deborah. And so this rounds out our panel for tonight. I thank all participants for joining us on this information webinar and invite you to kindly post your questions in the chat so that these could be shared with our panelists. So to kickstart our conversation tonight, I would ask Sylvia first to explain what is the Chevening Scholarship Program. Over to you, Sylvia.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tracy. So let's jump right into it. What is the Chevening Scholarship Program? Well, this program enables scholars to study for a one-year master degree at a UK university. It was launched in 1983, and over 50,000 scholars from all over the world have benefited from this fully funded study opportunity. Now, we keep hearing fully funded. What does that mean? Well, first of all, it means that your relocation, that means your departure and your return flights, those are covered. So are all your course fees. Your accommodation is paid for and you receive a monthly stipend. So basically all your expenses are paid for the year that you are engaged in studies. And what that means is that you can really focus on achieving the most from your degree. What can you study? Because that is the question that comes next. We hear achieving scholarships and we want to know, what can we actually study when we're there? Well, it covers any 1 year MA program at any university in the UK. Keyword, it has to be 1 year, so it cannot be a portion of a 2 year degree. You are not limited to studying at Chevening partner universities, but because there is that familiarity there, it is always encouraged for you to look at those universities. Now, what else does a scholarship entail? There are numerous opportunities for personal and professional growth, which is very, very key to this scholarship and award. So, Chevening is founded on the principles of leadership and networking. We have social events, we have networking groups, we have volunteer opportunities, the welcome event, the farewell event, homestay possibilities, festivals, all of these social opportunities that also really allow you to network. These provide spaces for you to make connections that will really take you forward in your life. You see, Achieving Award really offers more than an opportunity to attain a degree. Achieving Award is highly competitive and with good reason. To be selective means that you are a thought leader, that you are capable of affecting change, and that you really can pivot our realities for the better. So when you return to your home country, when you return to Belize, you return with more than a degree. You come back with knowledge, with networks, and the support of a global, like minded community of change makers. So, this really is a unique opportunity. And in the words of Chevening, the scholarship really has helped to elevate careers, to transform communities, to shift and deepen perspectives, and to build intercontinental bridges. Why? Because Achieving Scholarship Award is a award for leaders.
Rather impressive, Sylvia, and interesting that it is really a life experience that individuals can look forward to studying in the UK and applying for Achieving Scholarship. And so it would be good to hear from Shari why it's important to consider applying for this program.
Thank you, Miss Tracy. So some of the things that Sylvia mentioned, I just want to reiterate. Of course, there are so many scholarships that are offered to Belizeans, but for the Chevening Scholar, it's a fully funded scholarship. So as Sylvia mentioned, the tuition is paid, your accommodations, your stipend, your travel expenses to and from the destination during your studies. It's a well-rounded scholarship. So you might want to know if you need a 4.0 to apply for the scholarship. No, you don't. You of course have to have an a good GPA, but it also looks at other characteristics like the leadership characteristics, the networking, and other attributes that you have to, as Sylvia mentioned, be a leader and someone of influence. It is also a very prestigious scholarship, very competitive, and like Sylvia mentioned as well, it is for a good cause in terms of it. There are, I believe, 160 countries from around the world, and there are so many candidates that apply for this scholarship. So for you to be selected from all of those people and all of those applicants that of course probably as well deserve it, that alone tells how competitive and how prestigious this scholarship is. One of the other benefits or highlights of this scholarship is that it allows you to dive into whatever master degree you wish. It does look at how you can come back and develop your country, of course, but in terms of the limited amount of programs, no, you can apply for whichever program you wish.
Thank you so much, Shari. And I think that one benefit or one attraction is really to underscore that becoming a Chevening Scholar and having the opportunity to study in the UK really broadens one's horizon, your own personal and professional network with leaders from across the globe, really, from several countries. And I think that is a value that you're able to build upon as you return back to Belize and engage in your own professional development and your contribution to the sector in which you are employed.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Tracy. Of course, that is one as well. Not only do you have the network of Cheveners that you have this cultural exchange with, it's also within the program that you choose. For example, for Chevening, the alumni that I went to, we had so many people from around the world. But in my program itself, I had someone from Nigeria, I had someone from London, I had someone from Macau. So it it is a well-rounded scholarship, and the cultural diversity is can't be beat.
Absolutely. But I think for those who may have thought about applying and don't have sufficient information as to how to go about applying for the scholarship, it would be good to hear from Josue, one of our recent awardees, what is the application process like? Would you be able to share a bit on that experience, Josue?
Sure. So let me get into it. Of course, applications for Chevening 2021-2022 opened on August 3rd, and they will close on November 2nd. So applying for a Chevening scholarship is done entirely through an online application system. So applicants are usually asked to answer pre-screened questions before the application form can actually be accessed. These questions determine whether or not you are eligible to apply, so it is crucial and important for you to respond to them correctly before you can proceed. Right off the top of some quick eligibility requirements to know, applicants for the Chevening Scholarship are required to have worked a minimum of 2,800 hours and have selected at least 3 distinct university courses in the UK. Of course, if you meet all the eligibility requirements, you can proceed to the application form and begin preparing the essays and the required documents. Like I mentioned before, it's entirely done online through this application system. So a key tip is to familiarize yourself with the online application system and the requirements for a complete and accurate application. So this entails remembering your login information and saving the progress of your application as you go along. Ensure that you carefully plan and select your university courses and the references, outlines for your essay questions as well. Remember that your application does not need to be completed in one go, but ensure you have good time management. Your essays for sure will require the most time, and staying within the word count is crucial. Once you are satisfied with your application, you can submit via the online portal. It is, of course, recommended that you verify and you check your application several times before submission. Regarding that, applications are sifted against the eligibility criteria from mid-November to December, and shortlists for interviews are done early to mid-February. So more information on specific elements of the application process can be found online, or we can share any particular questions that you may have throughout the process.
Thank you so much, Josue. I think one question that came to mind as you were sharing that process was how much time would one need to allocate in order to complete their application? Is it an exercise that if they have all their documents and all the information on hand, they can invest 2-3 hours and complete it? Or it's recommended that, they go in, start certain data population and then go back in and review and finalize. Would you be able to touch on that?
Sure. So basing it on my experience, it is something that you will definitely need to spend a lot of time on. Usually, it's geared to people that have already been in the professional workforce. So you will need to allocate time to when you will are able to work on your application. So from my experience, the main thing was taking the time out to plan your essays because they are really the core of your application. So once you've passed the pre-screen questions and you're eligible for the scholarship and you have access to familiarize yourself with the application form on the portal. Regarding the educational documents that you may need, those may require time, and especially if your undergrad university was not in Belize, it may require you to order a transcript or something of that nature. You do have to make sure that your timeline is set, because the applications usually open the first week of August and they close on the first week of November. So looking at the 2-month deadline, you definitely don't want to come down to the wire when you need to submit something like an educational document that you need to have on hand. And of course, like I mentioned, the essays, you will be required to write them and edit them and revise them. So that does take a good amount of time. So keeping that 2-month time period, just make sure that you're able to prioritize your writing and preparation of those documents that are required.
Super. Well, it's clear that it requires a significant time investment from applicants. Um, uh, one important thought was a lot of Belizean students, myself having that experience, would have pursued higher education in the United States, others in the Caribbean. And so it would be good to hear what's the attraction or why study in the UK? Sylvia, would you be able to touch on that for us?
Thank you very much, Tracy. I'll touch on it really quickly. I think this question is super subjective, so it really is up to every scholar to decide why they choose to study in the UK. I'll speak personally from my experience for this one. And for me, the real draw or pull was that I could have studied a 1-year degree. So if I had taken the route of going through the US, for example, and look at and went for an archaeology degree in the US at a US university, I would have been looking at 2 to 5 years of study to attain a degree that I attained in a year at at a UK university. So I think that in and of itself is something that really is a motivator when it comes to your career goals, when it comes to the amount of time that you can spend outside of your country. Um, Another, draw for studying in the UK was the amount of diverse programs and opportunities to specialize in the UK. So you really could build a degree program, at least in archaeology or in heritage management, that reflected your specific specializations or areas of interest, and you had that flexibility to build that. Now, for me, my choices really were looking at what I could achieve in a year and looking for a university that offered something that was hard. I was hard pressed to find in many other countries, because I did look extensively at other countries. It showed to me that at least for the areas of education, at the areas of archaeology education, the UK really is at the forefront. And if you have the opportunity to study at a university that is at leader or an innovator in your field, then why not? Apart from that, there are other really exciting aspects of the UK. So there is the arts and the entertainment. There are shows, there are plays, there are open air concerts, there's a nightlife. There is an entire world of diversity out there when it comes to the UK. And I think oftentimes we really get dragged into, focusing on our studies and really looking at the degree programs and finishing up and coming back to Belize. But there is also that social aspect of it, that aspect of getting to know the country that you are in, visiting places. I mean, the UK is 3 separate countries, so take that effort to go visit Scotland, take that effort to participate in sports. If you're, a football fan, Arsenal, Chelsea, all of those teams are there, take some time out and go to that game. The food, cultural gastronomy, food tourism, that is an option as well. Whether you love it or you hate it or you live off meal deals, you really get to immerse yourself in another country. And you really get to see the diversity that is out there. If you are like me and you're a Harry Potter fan, you sort of feel like you've gone into an alternate universe where Harry Potter is almost real. If you are from a Commonwealth country, you really do get to experience, snippets of our culture, and you say, this is where our culture started off, or this is where some of the traditions that we have at home originated in. So it's really wonderful experiencing that as well. So whether your choices to study in the UK are, specific to your degree, specific to the things that you want to study, whether you're looking at a 1-year degree, whether you really are drawn by Chevening and the leadership and networking capabilities that come with that degree, or you're just, also looking at the entertainment, the cuisine, all of those things do factor in, and it makes a wonderful and life-changing experience.
Yes, it surely is. And I think it's also a way of how, as Belizeans, we also get to share our culture with others that we interact with and we get to meet. So it's also that opportunity that it affords because of the level of diversity. So really, really great to hear your thoughts on this, Sylvia. And I don't know if other panelists would wish to reflect, on how they feel about studying in the UK or having studied in the UK. My very own experience was I became a Manchester United fan by virtue of being, a couple blocks from the stadium. and that's how it really changes, certain aspects of our lives because of the experiences that we get to have studying in the UK. So I think that there is this understanding or this reference that there are certain qualities that a Chevening scholar should have, or an aspiring scholar. And so it would be good to hear, Deborah, on what you see are some of those qualities that makes a good Chevening scholar. What should people be reflecting on, those who may find it interesting to apply or should be encouraged to apply?
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. So obviously, one of the first things that Chevening is looking for is that you're a natural leader. We're looking for people who can come back and effect positive change in Belize. It's a part of your plan. So it's good for you to bring your own take on leadership. What do you think are some good leadership skills, leadership qualities, qualities that you already have and qualities that you can gain by pursuing this degree in the UK? What is your personal definition of leadership, and how you intend to take that and use it in this plan of yours? Chevening is definitely looking for ways in which you've exhibited these leadership qualities in the past. So you're going to be expected to give examples of how you use those leadership skills in the job that you have right now. It could be in extracurricular activities, NGOs that you may participate in. These are always key things that Chevening looks out for, because it's not just about what you're able to do in your current employment, but what you're able to do outside of that. So are you good at communication? Do you have very good communication skills? How have you exhibited this? Are you good at delegating work? Are you able to get people to follow your lead and see your vision and take them along with you? These are things that Chevening is looking out for, because your leadership and your networking skills go hand in hand. Leaders are able to tap into various resources. They're able to identify where they may need to improve, what they need to access. So be sure to mention these things in your essays. Another thing that will be helpful to you is to also indicate why you want to study in the UK. As Shari mentioned, there's a host of scholarship opportunities that are available to Belizeans. What is so special about studying in the UK? Why have you chosen these institutions? So you want to be able to pinpoint why you chose the program that you've listed in your 3 options. What's unique about this program? What skills can this program offer to you? And it's good for you to not only focus on the program itself, but look at the greater institution. Why are you choosing this institution? What's so special about it? This institution may be able to give you skills that are outside of your program of study, that are outside of your faculties. Use those to strengthen your essay. What you may also look at is how your program ties into your greater plan. Remember, these essays that you have all have to contribute to this plan that you have when you come back home. So, after mapping out your universities and why you chose each one and what's so special about the program, be sure to indicate how these contribute to your career path when you come back home. It's also beneficial to know that when you choose your programs, you're allowed to choose any program at any university, but it certainly does help if you choose programs that have similar qualities. Reason being, yes, you can choose any university, but you're not expected to choose law at one university and then science at another. That certainly doesn't help you. So, what you will notice is that most programs across universities have similarities when it comes to your area of studies. And it's okay if they have different titles, but what you look at is what you would be getting from each program. How does that tie into your major objective?
Thank you so much, Deborah, for sharing your reflections and your thoughts about it, which is really important takeaways. I would like to put the very same question to Shari to hear her own perspective on this, because I know that it is a bit subjective how we view those particular qualities, but nonetheless, we are able to, as individuals, demonstrate them in concretely different ways or similar ways depending on the experience that we bring. So, Shari, good to hear your thoughts here.
Thank you, Tracy. And I'm just stemming off to what Deborah mentioned, because your essays are a foundation to your interview and your career path and when you come home. So it's a roadmap. She mentioned that the leadership skills go hand in hand with the networking. It does. You want to, as much as possible, have clear, very focused examples of how what networking means to you. Why is it important? How has it assisted you? How does it continue to assist you? How can you use these skills that you have in the UK, and how you can use those skills when you return to Belize? So you have to display it's very important that you have clear examples, because like we mentioned, that's a roadmap. I Someone asked me if they need to be in a specific organization or association to in order to qualify for the scholarship in terms of networking and leadership, showcasing your networking and leadership skills. It does help a lot, because being in that position, or whatever position it is in an association or, or some type of group, it does help to showcase your networking and leadership skills. But it could also be in areas where it's not as structured as an association. It could be a school project that you worked on. It could be a small group that you created in your neighborhood. You just need to clearly show examples of how those networking skills are used, how it benefits you, and like I said, it's the roadmap in terms of your career path. And remember, all of these intertwined, you go together to create this beautiful pie. And so in the path, you want to have clear, specific, focused plans and goals on what you will do when you return. So that would include what you currently do, tie it in with your potential area of study, and what you will do, showcase what you will do when you reach home. Of course, you have you can't guarantee that that's going to happen, but it is an example or something that you're aspiring, and your goals, and so you want to show that it is clear and it is feasible. For example, you can't say that you want to return and be the prime minister of Belize, right? You have to start somewhere else, and then build your way up. So it's important to to indicate short-term goals and long-term goals, how you will get from those short-term goals going into your long-term goals. So having that roadmap is very important. And like I said, everything has to connect: the leadership, the networking, the career path, why you want to study. And you should have a clear, your essays should be flowing in terms of your career path and returning.
So the key message there is having a clear plan for the development of your career and how that higher education will contribute as part of that plan, right? And I think that that's very important because it means really giving some thought into how one would see themselves contributing in their particular field to the development of Belize, and how to use the opportunity of pursuing a Chevening scholarship to be able to realize that goal. And so for some of our participants and even other potential candidates, the question always comes up, if they're interested in pursuing a master's degree, is the scholarship, which one comes first? Applying for the scholarship or the university admission application? I think, Deborah, it would be good to hear your views on this as one of the most recent awardees. Perhaps you can share your own experience on that as well.
Absolutely. Well, for me, the first thing you should prepare for is that this is a year-long process. It's a year's worth of preparation to get here. I'm here now. I started this process last year, September, and I'm still not done. So be prepared that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. For me, I work both application processes at the same time. When approaching this scholarship, it's good to know what you want to study. You have to know what exactly you want to study. Map out, as I said, map out your top 3 universities, what you like about the programs that you've chosen, and start from there. Most university applications for the following academic year close off by December or January of the previous year. Be sure that you are applying for the September semester and not the January semester. A lot of universities, most faculties give the option of starting in January. Chevening does not cover a January semester. You have to start from the September semester. So while I started my Chevening application, at the same time, I was filling out my application to these universities. And the good thing about it is a lot of the qualities that you indicate in your Chevening application, you use those in your university application. They go hand in hand. This is all part of your greater plan. Remember, it's a cohesive approach that you're taking. So if let's say you've applied to a university from the year before, and you got that unconditional offer, and you've decided to defer because for whatever reason you couldn't come up with the funding, or maybe you were just taking a shot at applying to see if you can get in. Take that same deferral, use it in that application. Remember, applying to 3 universities gives you a greater chance of getting this scholarship, because there's no point in getting the scholarship but not getting into a university. So all you need is one unconditional offer. Ensure that you pick universities that you are likely to get into. It's not just about the program. Feel out the university. It works best if you know what you're getting yourself into, so that you know exactly what to put in your application essays. So for me, I would say definitely work both at the same time. But remember that Chevening is on a timeline. So you do have to finish this part of the application process by that deadline. If you haven't applied for your universities as yet, as I said, the deadline for those applications for most UK universities are around late December, early January. So you still have about a month or 2 in between the close of the Chevening application to the deadline for your university application, for you to finish, clear up maybe your essays, or maybe you haven't completed the online application. That's another thing. UK applications to universities are, if I'm not mistaken, all online now. So they allow you to log in. You create a username and a login information. You can start your application process, put it down, mull it over, change certain things before you submit that final application. But it's very important for you to manage your time wisely. You'd be surprised how quickly these deadlines run up on you. Don't be afraid to set up a schedule, set some minor deadlines in between. Maybe you work on one essay for 3 days, you put that down, you pick up another essay. Feel free to reach out to members of the association. We're here to help you. If you need feedback on any of your essays, some of us are one Facebook message away, but it's a process. I don't encourage anyone to rush these essays. People have a tendency to take the essays lightly, but as Shari said, these essays are the foundation of your application. This is your roadmap. So you really want to be sure what you're putting in them before you submit this application. And even though we're having this webinar, some would say close to the deadline. Yes, we know a lot could be done before now and the deadline. With a little bit of effort, a lot can be done to spruce up your application before that deadline. I will also encourage people to submit their applications a day or two before the deadline. The website has been known to crash for having an influx of applications being uploaded hours before that deadline. Don't let your application be caught in that rush. Be prepared, manage your time, and confidently submit your application.
Thank you so much, Deborah. So it really requires a lot of thought and a lot of preparation and being diligent about it, in an effort for that application to be the best application that you can put forward, both for applying to your university program as well as to the Chevening Scholarship, right? I think we have a few questions coming in from our participants, but I just wanted to pose one question for those who feel sufficiently confident that they have submitted a strong application, at least in this current call that's open, and would have already submitted, and wants to know what comes next. I think it would be good to hear what they can expect and how they can prepare during this interim period of waiting for the determination of, long listed versus short listed candidates, and eventually those who may be invited for an interview. So I would like to ask Josue, if you were to share, 3 tips to potential candidates, how can they prepare for their interviews if that is the next step that they may be looking forward to? Over to you.
All right, thanks, Ms. Tracy. Yeah, so if you've made it to the interview process, you should know that it's a really exciting opportunity to even be shortlisted for an interview. As we've mentioned at the start of this, how competitive the scholarship program is. So making it to the interview round is a big accomplishment in itself. If I can just go over some of the tips that I think past Cheveners would agree with, it's to know your application through and through. I think we keep mentioning that we've put a lot of emphasis on these essay questions, and going to the interview, you will be asked several questions on the information you've provided in your application. So it's good that you have been sincere and thorough in your essays and your application, because all of that will be brought to your attention again when you attend the interview. So it's important to be familiar with that content and ensure that you're able to elaborate and build on these responses. I think Shari had mentioned earlier that the essays serve as like a roadmap. So being in front of the panel is your one opportunity to build on this roadmap, to provide more detail that was not able to fit within the 500 word limit. Of course, you don't want to sound too scripted or rehearsed. But you want to give yourself enough time to provide supplementary information. And additionally, you will be asked to provide updates on correspondence with your university. So around that time, I think Deborah mentioned this, that you should be in tandem working with applying for your universities in the UK. You will be asked for your updates on this. I think you're required to only provide at least one unconditional offer or conditional offer at this time. but it is important that you're able to speak on communicating with the universities at this time. So like I said, the first one, of course, would be knowing your application through and through. The second one would just be to prepare an interview checklist or a packet. Of course, preparation is key. The interview is a really big step in this process, so you will be asked to provide your educational documents, your referee letters, and a national ID, for example. Make sure you have copies of these relevant documents you may need. You want to make sure that you have a bit of a checklist for the day to ensure that you've completed everything that's been asked for you. You've submitted a bio, you submitted what's been asked of you for the interview. You've been able to book a suitable time and that you're there on that you'll be able to attend on time. So just having that checklist and a packet of what you will take on the day is important. The third tip I'd say would ultimately be just to have confidence inside and out. So you have to spend time preparing for potential interview questions. Think about the main achievements you'll want to discuss. I know we keep mentioning these essays, but they really are the foundation of how you will proceed in your interview. So develop the talking points you don't want to leave out. You can do practice runs, mock interviews with people that you know, even with members of the Chevening alumni. This will help alleviate some of the nerves leading up to the interview. It should be to the point that, like I mentioned, that you're not too rehearsed, but that you're able to, have a conversation and it's the one time you speak about yourself and what you've been able to accomplish and why you believe that you're a candidate for Chevening. So, of course, the interview is the opportunity to present yourself. So, another thing would be to even decide on what you'll wear for the interview, looking confident on the inside and the outside and just being prepared ultimately.
Well, with those tips, Josue, I think that any candidate who gets to transition to that stage should be well prepared, because it really requires preparation and thoughtfulness, because it's really to make the final case on why they are deserving of such an award. So we have a few questions from some of our participants that I would invite yourselves to respond to. The first one is from Melissa. She's asking, is the 22,000 cap only applicable for MBA courses, or all courses you apply to must be under the $22,000 limit? Do we have one of our panelists who may wish to take these questions, colleagues?
Hi. So I'll answer, and this is thanks to our background person, Nicole Usher. So she pulled some information off the Chevening website. And so what is listed on the website is that the contribution to the tuition is capped at 22,000, and that you would be expected to fund the difference. So in the eventuality that your program does require additional funding, then you will be required to put that. So that's something that you really need to take into consideration when you're selecting your degree options or your first, second, and third choices. And it's also stated, that you may be required to demonstrate that you have sufficient funds to cover the remaining tuition fees. Because you don't want to be in a situation where you have, been selected and then you are unable to take it on for financial reasons. But that would be the general answer to that. Does anyone want to add anything else?
So in essence, it means that if there's a funding gap, the candidate would have to fill that gap and show evidence of that, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
It's also important to be mindful of that because it may affect your student visa as well. If you are required to contribute to whatever degree in your visa application, you're going to have to show proof of how you're able to foot the rest of that bill as well. So it's good to be mindful of how you're going to deal with that when you get to that bridge.
We have a comment from in our chats as well. Thank you, Beresford, for answering quite a lot, for sharing a lot, and thank you to all the other alumni in the chats. That have really been answering. So for the people who are watching, there are alumni in the chats. We have Miss Ebony, we have Miss Felicia Pelayo, Beresford. So they are answering there. But Beresford says, and rightly so, not for knock up that your programs generally won't run over that 22,000 cap. Back when I applied, it was actually 18,000. So obviously, there's been some sort of increase in there. But the larger, more established universities, UCL, Oxford, stuff like that, they on average are at 18 to 20, 22,000. And I think Chevening takes that into consideration as well. So the cap is reflective of what is the general average for a 1 year or 1 year degree program in the UK. So that is, accounted for. And yeah, don't let it discourage you. Be mindful of it, but don't let it discourage you.
Thank
And
you
then,
so
as you
much.
mentioned earlier, Sylvia, as well, universities that partner with Chevening tend to give you a bit of a discount.
Yeah.
After you've been accepted and you've notified them that you've been successful in your application, Chevening reaches out to them and tries to work out some kind of balance with the tuition fees. So be mindful when you're choosing your universities to ensure that this is one that partners with Chevening.
And
Just
thanks for making mention of that too, Deborah, because there was a related question asking if there are any pros or cons to choosing a Chevening University versus a partner university. I don't know if it was in that light that you were making this reference, or you would wish to speak to that as well.
No, it was in reference to that question. So some of the pros and cons are just it was just that familiarity that the universities have, or that working relationship that would allow for a discount at the university. Sometimes the pros and the cons are simply a university that is more familiar with dealing with international students. So when I was at the University College of London, they had really good relations with Chevening. I think in my year, UCL had the largest amount of Chevening scholars. So I think there were 151 Cheveners at UCL. So they were really familiar with the award, but that also meant that they had a lot of things in place for just general student well-being that really captured and reflected Chevening. So that would be one of the pros. So it's more of your student experience and the ease of accessing some of the more back end things in a university that you might find is more is more smooth, the smooth going process when the university is familiar with Chevening. But you have to remember also that Chevening it's a prestigious scholarship award in the UK as well. So oftentimes universities tend to want to partner with Chevening. So it's really a pro all around. Mhm.
Yes,
I just wanted to add with the 22K, you have three universities, so you could always have a backup university in the event that you can't afford to foot the bill. You have another two other universities that you could also go with, so that's a good thing.
thank you so much, colleagues. I think I saw we also received another question. I'm not sure if one of our alumni responded to this question, asking if any advice for choosing referees on your application. Would anyone want to share any quick tips on how to determine who they choose as their referees?
I can help with that one, Ms. Tracy.
Sure, go ahead, Josue.
So yeah, picking referees, it's very important that you choose someone that can really speak on you as a leader, or as knowing that your networking skills. So it's important that someone that's familiar with you, that knows who you are as a professional, who has had prior experiences with you who can really speak on your character. I think that that's essential in choosing a referee, because at the end of the day, these reference letters will be brought up at your interview, and they will play an important role in the overall completion of your application. So because these pillars have been indicated to be a Chevening scholar, it's important that your referees are able to speak on that, and they're able to identify that those qualities in you. So I think sometimes you might be caught up in selecting a referee that you might think might have a bit of an influential post, but I would discourage against that. I think it's better to have someone that really knows you very well and can talk and provide information on who you are as a leader and the benefit of your networking skills.
Just to add to that as well, I believe when I applied, there was a guide, a reference guide, a referee guide, and so I would suggest that you also take advantage of that. Share that with your referee so that they can be guided by what exactly they should put in the letter. Of course, it has to be someone who knows you, like Josue mentioned, but having a guide for them also helps a lot.
Thank you so much, colleagues, for responding to those questions. I know we have still a few more that came up in the chat, but what we would do is respond to them on the chat so that those participants are able to receive an immediate feedback, or feel free to reach out on the Facebook page to the Alumni Association if you don't get a response that's comprehensive enough or that is clear. But I am mindful of the time, and we're almost at that hour where we need to start to wrap up. And so I would like to give the last word to our panelists, really, to ask what would be your encouragement to those thinking about applying for a Chevening scholarship. If we can do in a lightning round, your final remarks and words here. Sylvia, would you start us off?
No. Why would you do that? Okay, so I will say to everybody, what has been covered here: do your roadmap, plan it out well. After you have submitted your applications, after you have submitted your university applications as well, take a step back, take a breather, and go to your backup plan for your career. A lot of us have had to apply numerous times before they were selected, before they were even moved up to that interview stage. So take it easy, relax. It's not the end of the world if you are not selected. It just means you have even more of an opportunity to be able to really showcase and develop who you are and what you have to offer for Belize. And if you really have all of those leadership skills, whether or not you get a Chevening award, you are going to make a change and make a difference in this country. So I would say, really and truly, you put all your effort into it. Don't let your not being selected be because you did not plan well. But even if you have planned well and you don't get selected for whatever reason, that's also okay, and you can always try again in the next cycle.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Josue, over to you.
Sure. So let me just continue with what Sylvia was saying. I think an important thing, what we keep mentioning throughout this webinar, has been just being prepared. And of course, we talk about the qualities that you find in a Chevener of having these leadership skills and being able to network. I think it's important that considering those features, you need to know that a lot of it is preparation and determination. Those are also maybe some of the behind the scenes qualities that you also have to have in going into this process. I think Deborah accurately mapped out what it's like to go from beginning to the end, and she's already started her award and is still not finished, like she mentioned. I think that's something that you need to consider as well going into this, that it's not a straightforward process, and so long as you're prepared and you're willing to put in the effort and the work in getting this opportunity, I think a lot of it has to do with self determination and belief in it as well. Not to sound too corny, but I think when I applied, I just went into it knowing that I would get it, because you have to have that confidence and knowing that you will you're able to get this opportunity. So I would say, so long as you're prepared and you're planned and you're willing to put in the effort, because like we've mentioned, it's not a very straightforward process, but so long as you set your personal deadlines and your goals in completing this application, and even getting that email of making it to the interview round, it doesn't end. It doesn't stop there when you get that, it's just about persevering and moving forward to the next step. So I honestly think so long as you put your best effort into this, and you have that confidence in knowing that it'll work out, that you definitely can get on the other side of it. So I think determination is the main thing in going into this application.
Thank you so much, Josue, for that encouragement. And I think for those younger students who have joined us, those still in sixth form, really it's an encouragement for them to prepare and look ahead and see how they can build their profile to be able to apply for the program. Shari, good to hear your encouragement and your last words. You're on mute.
I'll blame that on COVID.
Yes. Go ahead.
I just want to say that don't be discouraged. When I applied, I had applied for probably 3 other scholarships before, and I went at one point. I wasn't selected at all. And the next point, I reached the interview stage for the 2 others, and then for Chevening, I was selected. So don't be encouraged. When you are successful and you go to when you go to the UK and you meet all the Cheveners, some of them have applied for three times, 4 times, 5 times. Do not be discouraged. And in terms of the younger persons that want to apply, also don't be discouraged. I was pretty young when I applied. I had only had a little over a year experience, but I also did volunteering over the years. And so it's not only that you have to be working and getting paid to apply to qualify as work experience. Internship and volunteer is also accepted, so that I added that to my amount of work experience, and I was successful. So don't be encouraged in that aspect. Like Josue mentioned, prepare, be confident. Personally, I when I did my interview and I submitted the application, when I got the news that I was shortlisted, I every day I went over my questions before I go to sleep. I was with my friends, my family. I had them take me up in terms of like the questions, so that, like Oswa said, that it doesn't seem scripted, but you also are confident in your answers and your questions.
Thank you so much, Shari. So it means despite multiple applications, the takeaway is to not give up, to persevere.
Each one makes you better.
Absolutely. Deborah, your final words to our participants and viewers tonight.
Okay. The jitters that you're feeling right now when you're questioning yourself writing these essays, when you're doubting your intellect when writing these essays, we've all been there. Let me tell you, these essays will rock your world. These essays will have you questioning if you're really smart enough to come and do this, but you are. Trust yourself. The confidence takes you far. There's a wealth of information out there on YouTube. There's a whole lot of Chevening blogs. Hit them. Trust me. When it comes to the interview preparation, there's a ton of mock interviews on YouTube. Don't be afraid to look them over. For me, I found that they differed in terms of region and the different countries that you look at, but definitely tap into those resources. It doesn't hurt to over prepare, and most importantly, be yourself. Be yourself. These essays, remember, this year I think we had over 64,000 applicants worldwide, and only about 5,000 made it to the interview stage. So these essays, there's going to be a lot of generic stuff coming out in it, but being yourself is what gives your application that zing. When you go to that interview, and yes, you will make it to the interview. We're speaking positivity into these applications. When you make it to that interview, that is what really makes or breaks the application process. So be confident, be comfortable, be calm, the 3 C's, and go in there and just be yourself. That's the one part of the application process that you can't put on paper. So be sure that your panelists are able to see a bit of your personality, stand outside and shake off the jitters a bit. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for those tips and that encouragement, because it's really about, being calm and being able to really take care to be consistent with those applications and to put our best foot forward, because that's what really counts. And so, colleagues, really, really, I think that we are just about out of time for this discussion tonight. But I think a big thanks for our panelists for participating in this information webinar. We hope that we can do this on a more regular basis when the application processes are open, and look forward to other alumni joining, both as hosts and moderators, as well as panelists, to share their own experience. A big thanks to the Heritage Education Network for hosting the webinar in collaboration with the Chevening Alumni Association. We couldn't do this without you. A big thanks, Dr. Juan, Sylvia, and the others for being able to commit to this partnership. For prospective applicants, please feel free to reach out to the Alumni Association, where we can support applicants as mentors. That means visiting our Facebook page, contacting us via email for the questions that you may have or concerns that you may have and wish to have them addressed. We will attempt to address some of those in the chat that were posed that we didn't get to responding, but please feel free to continue to reach out. Remember the application for this year. The deadline is the 2nd of November. That's a few days away. I encourage you to complete your applications before the deadline. Don't wait until the 99th hour, because that's when systems start to fail and crash. And then, we go into hysteria. So please get your applications in. Those who already have applications open on the platform, please do so. Thanks for joining us for this information webinar. I hope that you all found it inspiring and you found it useful. And we would very much welcome to have you join the over 108 scholarship awardees of Chevening that we are in Belize since over the past 35 years, thanks to the partnership of the United Kingdom. So here's wishing everyone a very pleasant good night. Keep well and stay safe. Over.